I love composition. I mean, when I'm working on paper, it's this crazy game of best field syncopation in a composition. It's very much the quickness and gesture-driven and compositionally driven activity that a drawing is. Thinking about it in formal terms, like I need a line to work with, I need a colored line to work with, and the shoelaces seem like the perfect linear material. It also let me do things like a kind of process-oriented labor that, you know, I could tie shoelaces end to end to end to end and connect myself with sequential, accumulative, like an Armand gesture, lots of these, you know, or a rule-based Lewittian kind of gesture, you know, tie this forever, whatever. And I remember one of the first conversations I had with the people at Mitchell Lace, where I get the laces. The woman on the other end of the phone wanted me to simply buy the lace material in spools. And I said, no, I need those little things at the end because they need to look like shoelaces. And she said, the egglet? And I said, I don't know what you call it, but yes, that thing. There was this funny convergence about looking for larger linear materials with color and walking back and forth over the Gowanus Canal every day, or every day I went to my studio, and suddenly realizing, oh, here's a set of materials that I can get, and here's this connection to this image. It's really like a snap of meanings and a resonance of multiple meanings, and it's like, oh, this is right. This serves more than one purpose. But I have no problem saying that I just needed a bigger line for my big drawing, and it happened to be this, and everything else fell into place, kind of. You know, like any sort of what I consider good drawing, like the first mark cuts the page in some way, and so cut the page and then move again this section close enough to the banister that it's approachable, but far enough away that you can't touch it. I wanted to be clear that, okay, I can't reach out here and touch it safely. There's these funny little things that are no longer formal but physical and interrelational. I didn't want to give the guards a miserable time. You know, it's just part of how this work is constructed. It's like, these are my decisions to make, but there's no reason why these decisions can't be respectful of everybody else who's helping make this work happen. For all the kind of thinking of the structure of this and how it gets played out, I have to say that a lot of it is set in place so I can work as automatically as possible. And there's a certain kind of psychology of the space that I wanted to approach. It's a very grand space, but it's still pretty intimate. And so you get this lift in the ceiling height, and you get this expanse over the balcony and off the windows area and down the staircase. But there's still this sense that you can reach out and touch the work and be close to it. And so, like, positioning this near the windows is important to me, you know, both that it opened the space from the stairwell and provided a generous enough entry. You know, I didn't want the work to be looming over anyone, which I probably could have affected if I moved this whole thing over there. I wanted to move the high element close to the window and close to the people and have it be visible. I didn't want to not address spanning from the stairway. I needed to cross it in some way to acknowledge it, but I wanted to do it high enough that it was generous, a generous portal in here. So the knitted pieces, a little bit of a side thing about this is I'm not a knitter. Like, I don't knit. I could, I think, but I don't. It's the crochet hook. Crocheting is just a perfect enterprise because it's one tool in variable directions. You can go line, you can go volume, you can just drive it around in any which way, and I like that mutability. The thing about the directions is that they were made in a Lewittian style, partly because that's what I'm comfortable with as directions for knitters, partly because I am not a counter, but I know that you have to count if you're a knitter. And so the verbal descriptions that describe things that you would have to count seem like a nice place to meet the other participants. The directions also allowed people to kind of encode their own history, a bit of their own history into each piece, or in a group of people into one piece. When I came here, I got the pieces and found a location for them and literally crocheted them together, into the piece. The spatial stuff is very important, but the seeing, the walking through and collapsing the vista down to 2 dimensions, the willful loss of depth perception that one must do when one draws from 3 dimensions to 2 dimensions is a huge part of what drives these. And that's drawing. That's a real conservation of a skill that is about drawing on paper. And I don't want that to ever go away. Observational drawing, I don't want that to ever go away. And the kinds of drawings you see are very different depending on where you are and what you're looking at. And I like that. It's a real variety pack. So in some areas it's much more Baroque and dense and decorative. Like there's this perfect square, which I think is Jessica's square. And then I've crocheted around the edge of it, and presumably as a utility in case that I needed to crochet shoelace onto it, because I needed bigger holes to do that. But the way I used it, the decorative aspect of the crocheting, the kind of loop around the edge, is left there all by itself. And then, you look into some parts of the toe line and it's just little slightly scatter-arty, like just boom. And then if you look through, especially from the very end all the way through, it's much more of a field composition. It fills your entire frame. It doesn't come, except for the size of it, from anything about monumentality and planning. So it's a marriage of forms. It's kind of in different places. It happens to be sculpture, and I don't dispute that, but the drive of it is from a late 20th century invention of sculpture. It's from an older invention of drawing.